Greetings from Deserto Manor, Louisiana's premier psychiatric hospital. Far from the hustle and bustle of New Orleans, we're here to help you relax. We have the friendliest of staff members, and our other guests are more than welcoming. If you're suffering from depression, addiction, or any other malady, plan a trip to the lovely Deserto Manor today.
I love horror games. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, Dead Space. I've played them all. Even lesser known games like Galarians, the ridiculously overpriced Kuan, and the hilarious Overblood. Horror games have always been one of, if not my favorite genre of game to play. From inventory management to awkward controls to tense encounters with all manner of monstrosities, there isn't much I dislike about these kinds of games. As much as I adore horror games, Alone in the Dark is one series I seem to miss out on. I never played the first 3 games. I did, however, play the New Nightmare as well as the ill-fated 2008 game. With Capcom having huge success with the recent Resident Evil remakes and a Silent Hill 2 remake on the horizon, it seems like a good time for a game that inspired those games to make a comeback. Originally meant to release alongside Alan Wake 2 in October of 2023, the Alone in the Dark reboot was delayed to January 2024. In order to ease the workload and stress on the developers. Alan Wake 2 turned out to be one of the best games of that year, so perhaps that delay was a good idea. The game would have one more delay from January to March, finally releasing on March 20th, 2024. I was eager to get my hands on it. The game purchased from Steam and installed on my PC, I was ready to have a great time with the brand new horror game. The game opens with our 2 main characters, Edward Conby and Emily Hartwood, on the road to Deserto Manor, a psychiatric hospital in Louisiana. Emily received a distressing letter from her uncle Jeremy, a patient at the manor, and hired Edward, a local private investigator, to accompany her. The duo arrive at the manor, and at this point you can choose one of the 2 to play as. Both Edward and Emily play the same, they obtain the same items and weapons, and traverse the same environments. Each character does have a couple unique segments, though. The main difference between the 2 is the cutscenes and how other characters react to them. The residents of the manor are familiar with Emily and are kinder and more willing to speak to her, explaining more of the mysteries taking place in the plot of the game. Meanwhile, Edward seems to stumble around blindly, and so does the player. If you want an easier time understanding the story and don't plan more than one playthrough, I definitely recommend playing as Emily. The original Alone in the Dark paved the way for games such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill. The fixed camera angles, exploration, puzzles, and tense monster encounters influencing most of the horror games in the 90s and early 2000s. In an ironic twist, the reboot takes most of its influence from modern games, especially the Resident Evil remakes. Using a third-person camera with over-the-shoulder aiming, weapon switching, and healing items are assigned to the hotkeys or the D-pad of your controller for quick access. Key items are used from a menu while interacting with doors or puzzles in lieu of inventory management. There is a maximum amount of ammo or health items you can carry. You'll spend the game 6 to 8 hours exploring the manor, solving puzzles, fending off creatures, and having run-ins with the various residents and patients that live there. There is also a lot of notes to pick up, most of which are fully narrated. There is actually quite a bit of reading or listening to various articles. You'll encounter a few different kinds of monsters during your investigation of Deserto Manor. Despite their different appearances, most enemies have no tactics besides rushing right towards you. You have a dodge button you can use to evade attacks with the right timing, but it's much easier to just take them out. Each character has 3 firearms, a pistol, a shotgun, and a Tommy gun. There is also a flare gun you find later in the game, but that's more of a utility than a weapon. The pistol will get you through most single enemy encounters, but for groups, you might want to use the shotgun or the Tommy gun. You can pick up various melee weapons which break after a few uses. You usually get enough swings to at least take out one monster. You also have the option of stealth. However, it seemed mostly pointless since there is more than enough supplies to take out every monster you run into. Scattered around the environment are also rocks and Molotov cocktails you can throw to distract and damage monsters. Regardless of difficulty, the monsters pose little threat. They're easily dispatched or just avoided. Unfortunately, fighting off monsters isn't tense nor scary. You'll most likely blast them away with ease, and if you manage to take damage, there is a plentiful amount of healing items to help you recover health. Survival horror games are known for their puzzles, and Alone in the Dark is no different. In fact, the puzzles may be the best part of the game. Deserto Manor's rooms and hallways are filled with puzzles, both required and optional. Some being pretty simple puzzles that involve finding the right item to use. However, there is some more interesting multi-layered puzzles. You'll collect clues with diagrams and charts that you can return to your menu to look at. These will probably not make any sense to you at first, but their purpose will soon come to light as you tackle the game's puzzles. In an early game example, you'll find a chart of zodiac signs, each sign having a number assigned to it. In the same room, a combination lock using the zodiac symbols as the key. On the wall are several portraits. Arranging these in the correct way will give you 3 names. Looking at a poster on the wall gives a list of names and numbers assigned to them. Comparing the numbers on the wall to the numbers on your zodiac chart in your notes will give you the combo you need to open the lock. Most of the required puzzles involve using your notes and items in the environment in tandem in order to solve them. When you do solve them, you're going to feel like a real genius. I'm a genius! On the other hand, some of the puzzle solutions are asinine and seem like padding, such as fueling a generator to lower a lifeboat so your character can use it as a makeshift elevator to access a lower level, although the nearby walls are covered in vines and ivy that your character has climbed up and down prior to this moment. Or another example is needing to find an extension hose to fill up a well, even though the first hose already there is about a foot away from the well and you could easily angle the water to flow into it. Those instances aside, most of the puzzles do need you to actually think and use your notes and clues to solve them, leading to what I would say is the most enjoyable aspect of the game, if you enjoy puzzles, that is. As you explore Deserto Manor, you'll start to piece together what's really going on at the hospital. Like other games of its ilk, a lot of the story is told through notes you can collect. You also learn a lot from the game's supporting cast, characters such as the strange, carefree, and often cryptic Child Grace, the drunk McCarfrey, the pretentious Dr. Gray. These characters pop up from time to time to chat with our protagonists. Both Emily and Edward will share a moment with their flirtatious Ruth. They'll eavesdrop on the orderlies as they discuss their plans in secret. As stated earlier, Edward and Emily have different interactions and different scenes with various characters. Emily has more connections to the manor and its residents. If they haven't met her in the past, they're at least familiar with her. This leads to more friendly interactions and they share more info with her. Edward is meeting all of these people for the first time, and his interactions represent that. Without spoiling too much, it's easier to get a grasp of what's going on while playing as Emily. You will also occasionally cross paths with Edward or Emily while playing as the other character. These are usually a quick conversation and catch up before they split up again. Regrettably, we never get to see what the character we aren't playing as gets up to. The game has collectibles called lanyards that come in sets of 3. Collecting all pieces of a set unlocks some lore, and depending on the set, the ability to trigger a different ending. Edward and Emily do have unique optional endings, although the main path of the game concludes the same way regardless of your chosen character. Now that we have gone over most aspects of the game, it's time we talk about something else. No, what happened? Why? Why has this happened? Why has this happened? Yeah, that's what I'm pressing right now. This is the dodge roll button. What happened? I walked by this guy. I'm stuck in this little cardad can trap. It trapped me. It was a cardad. Oh, jeez. Is there any animation that can get me out of here? Alone in the Dark can be a very inconsistent and unreliable game. I constantly found myself getting stuck on random objects, forcing a reload sometimes. Without even trying, I'd walk down a seemingly benign hall or walkway, only to get stuck on a small box on the ground, or walk onto something I couldn't get down from. I talked about the mechanics of combat earlier, the abundance of ammo, the unthreatening enemies, the pointless stealth option. The areas you encounter enemies are usually linear enough for you to just run by most enemies in the game. They won't catch up to you with their shuffling gait. If and when you do choose to fight, you'll find combat lacks any strategy. Monsters shamble towards you in an attempt to melee or grab you. Unloading on them as fast as possible is the best method to take them out, regardless of the type of monster. There is also little impact to attacks from you or the enemy. You'll see blood splatter when your shots connect, but other than that, the monsters show no reaction. The same is true for your character. They show little reaction to getting hit, and if you don't pay attention, you'll take damage from sources you don't even notice. This is especially noticeable on hard mode, when you can die from just a few hits. Whether you choose to fight or not, the monsters aren't the least bit threatening. As I stated earlier, Emily and Edward have different cutscenes. My first playthrough was as Edward, and I honestly didn't know what was even going on in the game. Now don't take that the wrong way. I knew what was happening in a moment and what my character's goals were, but no idea on the why or how behind any of the events taking place. The reason behind things is more clearly explained when playing as Emily, which is why I recommend playing as her. Other than the gameplay and story issues, the game also has technical problems. While I can't speak for the performance on consoles, on PC it was pretty inconsistent. At times, it ran at 120 FPS. Then, without warning, and for no discernible reason, it would stutter for a few moments. This was most noticeable during cutscenes, and seemed to get more severe the longer I played. This game looks bad. While not something that bothers me too much, it's still worth pointing out that the game also does not look very good. Some textures look blurry or muddy, and most of the environments are pretty drab or uninteresting. However, it's the character models that look the worst. Outside of Edward and Emily, the rest of the characters look uncanny and doll-like, as if made of plastic. The game also has a short runtime, about 6 to 8 hours, and even as low as 3 on subsequent playthroughs. While not out of the ordinary for a survival horror game, besides having a couple different endings, there was no unlockables or anything to replay for. Of course, horror is subjective, but the game is just not scary, which for a horror game could be the biggest fault. I still enjoyed my time with the game, but unless you're a huge Alone in the Dark fan or a big horror enthusiast, I wouldn't recommend it unless it was on sale. With modern games becoming a bigger investment in both time and money, I don't see this game reigniting this franchise. Instead, it seems to be destined to fade away into the dark once again.
Not everyone needs to be saved, Mr. Conby. You should know that by now.
Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment and let me know how you felt about the Alone in the Dark reboot. Did you like it despite the flaws? Does it play better on consoles? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content I'll be experimenting with. I hope you liked the video and have a great day.